and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute privilege to be joined by the fabulous Tami Reiss. Tami, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited and so looking forward to this. And as I can tell by our brief conversation before we started, we can get stuck in really quick, can't we? So before we do, let me share a little bit more about you with our audience. So Tami is an influence trainer and keynote speaker who helps high-achieving professionals unlock their executive presence and lead with lasting impact. With 2 decades of experience driving strategy, innovation, and alignment across startups, enterprises, and VC firms, she teaches leaders how to gain buy-in, build trust, and scale their influence. Tami is the creator of the L.E.A.D. framework and a sought-after voice.
Don't make it hard on the people. Lead.
A sought-after voice on modern leadership, productivity, project thinking, and business growth. Her practical, people-centered approach inspires action, clarity, and confidence. I mean, there's so much in there, Tami. Where to even start? I know, because I've seen lots of your things. So, can you bring that to life for the audience? Those people that might not have got to know enough about you yet.
So, my nature is a problem solver, and I spent a long period of time problem solving in technology, and so that title is called product management. And I made my way up the ranks. I worked either in-house as a product manager or as a consultant, teaching other people to be product managers or teams to work better. And product management is this really fascinating discipline in that you don't often have people who report into you. You're not often actually managing humans, you're managing products. And when you do that, it turns out you can't do it alone. Yeah. And so you end up working with humans and engineers, designers, salespeople, customer service people, the legal team, the compliance team, you name it. We are the hub that talks to everyone. And therefore, what we say is we have to master influence without authority. And so I spent my career mastering influence without authority and teaching others to do the same. But as I made my way up and eventually became an executive coach, I realized even when you have authority, you still need to use influence. Yeah. You can be the CEO of an organization, and if you try to rule with an iron fist and command and control, you lose your employees and you don't get the best work out of them and you don't get the best ideas out of them. And so over the past few years, I have transformed myself into someone who talks about that and talks about how every one of us influences other people all day long with the energy we bring, with the words that we choose, with the actions that we take, and they have impact on the way others perceive us, others trust us, others have confidence in us or lack thereof. And therefore, if we can be more conscious of that and the choices we make within that, our tone of voice, our volume, our executive presence, the way we write an email or anything else, that all of these compound into being a fantastic leader. And independent of whether or not you have a leadership title, everybody has to lead at some point. So these skills become something that you can utilize every day in different capacities. You can use them at home with your children or your partner or your parents. You can use them in social situations, like when you're purchasing a car, or you can use them when negotiating things at work. And I'm not only talking about negotiating your salary or your promotion. When you're just negotiating that another team do something to help you. Yeah. Or that someone opens their mind to a possibility that wasn't their idea. And all of those interactions involve persuasion and influence in ways that not enough people talk about. And the most successful people often have as natural skill sets, and they don't even know how to turn them on because they use them in certain arenas and they forget to use them in more arenas. And so that's what I help people do.
Oh, I love that, because I think it's so true, isn't it? Sometimes we kind of like, we say we wear these many hats, and we think that the skills that we have can't be transferable, and yet they are. We just need to think, because as you say, almost every interaction is with another human.
For some reason, there's a hiss sound like water that just happened.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I would start again on you.
Okay.
Whatever.
You're so right, Tami, because I think very often what we do is we think that the skills that we've got between situations aren't transferable to go to other situations. And yet the reality is in almost everything we do, we're talking people. And, I was talking to a business leader the other day. I was like, oh, Kim, business is hard. And I thought, that's interesting. Talk to me about that. He goes, well, I've got business partners, people. I've got suppliers, people. I've got colleagues, people. We kind of got together. I was like, kind of got people issue, Lovey. It's like what you need is to get better with people. And how do you view all of those instead of boxing them by the title? Talk to them like they are human beings. How do you bring the best out in them? How do you command through your presence, not demand through your title?
Yes.
And getting to that space where you're a good influential leader when you command respect because you've earned it through presence, through personality, through integrity, not that you've demanded it because my title says you give it to me and I'm going to.
It won't last.
It won't, will it? Because people want to feel. At our core, we want to be listened to, we want to be understood, and we want to be respected. And that doesn't mean to say we can never disagree, but we never disrespect. And so we have to become more curious, I guess, into what does good look like for you, and what does good look like for me, and where's the commonality that we can work together on, so that we grow together.
There's someone I met recently who I've adopted one of his phrases, which is disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh, I love that.
Disrespectful works too, but I like the parallel. And I agree with you. These interpersonal skills, as we call them, they're worth gold. Technology and hard skills are always going to evolve.
Yeah.
The tools that are out there, whether they're physical or I was literally this morning at a place where you could make a real leather belt, like that's a skill, but that got replaced by the Industrial Revolution hundreds of years ago, right? And I'm looking at it as a novelty, but in reality, the thing that's going to make me buy the belt is the person selling it.
Yeah.
Trying to influence me with the energy she brought or didn't bring, because there were many salespeople that I just encountered that were dismissive. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to continue to be in this store.
Yeah, I'm going to go somewhere else.
It's the same thing with an idea at work, right? If you walk up to someone and they're dismissive or they don't even look at you because they're looking at your computer, you don't want to engage with them. So think about in the most simple golden rule, right? Treat other people the way you want to be treated. If someone walks into you with an idea, give them your attention.
Yeah.
Turn your body language towards them. Smile. And don't immediately negate their idea. Ask them a question about it. Respect them as a human. Respect them as someone who's excited about something. And if it's not the right idea, help them understand why. But don't just shoot things down. And don't shoot people down because we're people.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think some of that, I love your thoughts on this. Yeah, I wonder if some of that is driven by the fact that we've been sold such a dud for years about what's required as leaders. So, as leaders, we're supposed to know all the answers. And therefore we immediately, who in the right mind thinks that we know? But because of that, we're so wedded to being right instead of wedded to the right thing being done, that actually we shut people down in the moment because we just need to get to the answer. And you've not got it because I've got it. And this is where we're going. And then you wonder why we end up creating cultures where people can't share, where we've not given people permission to be part of the solution. And then we stifle our growth because we don't know all of the answers. And we've just shut down our opportunity to learn
and leverage.
Point. Absolutely.
I was lucky enough. It's, oh my God, I can't believe it's been almost a decade since this happened. But around a decade ago, when I was working at a company called JustWorks, the vice president of product who I reported to was a woman named Camila Velasquez. She now runs the New York Times cooking organization, like the business unit. And she taught me something that was so crucial. I repeat it probably twice a week, which is that the chance of any initiative being successful is the byproduct, meaning like multiplication, of the percentage right the idea is and the percentage buy-in the team has. And so you could be 100% right, but if you haven't brought people along with you, the idea is going to fall flat. The initiative is not going to be successful. But if you recognize that being right isn't the most important thing, and that it's in balance of these other people coming along and feeling ownership, et cetera, it's okay if the idea is only 50% right. With their buy-in, and we'll get to 80% right over time, or 100% right in the long run. But the success is built on the people, not necessarily the idea.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because it's so true, isn't it? And I think very often we dismiss the things that are really important. The amount of leaders that I speak to, when you talk about soft skills, I'm like, if they're so soft, why do you find them so hard? Because the people that dismiss them as soft skills are the ones that can't do them. Find it really hard to be able to show any vulnerability. And I know it's a fine line between showing vulnerability without losing credibility, but it can be done if you have the courage to not be right all the time.
100%. And earlier you were mentioning something that triggered something for me, which is I hate the word stakeholder. Like, if there was one word I could eliminate from the business lexicon, it would be stakeholder, because it doesn't recognize that all these other people are people, right? Yeah. They're potential partners. They're potential colleagues, right? These are people who chances are you work with, as opposed to a stakeholder, which is somebody holding a pitchfork coming for you, right? Like, it's adversarial when it doesn't need to be. And if you eliminate that one word, the whole business world will just start getting better, because you would stop this conflict and instead say, okay, how do we work together to solve problems? How do we work together to make our customers' lives better? How can we work together so that at the end of the day, we don't have one employee working till midnight and one employee not, right? Like, how do we have this be a collaboration and a partnership across cross-functional organizations and different business units that we like to divide and put up walls with different goals and metrics? It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. These are people who are trying to get a job done that helps them put food on their table, that if they do successfully, we all end up winning because the business is successful. And the sooner we can recognize that, and that no one's sitting there with a stake.
It's so true. We have so many similar things like that in business, don't we? In business speak, the amount of times I go to organizations and they still have minimum standards, and I was like, oh, please don't call them that. Because, you've worked really hard, you do everything that's expected, and you get to go home and go, hey, guess what? Today I was totally minimum. How does that make you feel? Because change the word, change the language. Let's think about the fact, how much language have we put out there that actually is creating barriers? It's undermining what we're trying to do, which is about building those inclusive cultures that are wanting to help everybody thrive, to find that collaboration, to find the art of the sum of the parts being greater than the individuals, and yet we put language in our way that makes people go, maybe they don't really mean that.
Yeah,
maybe they're just saying that because this language says the opposite.
I think your and my belief in the power of words, that word choice, that whether it's because you're choosing a more sophisticated word or a less sophisticated word. The book that I wrote is a children's book designed for a 6-year-old to be able to read it, but it deals with business topics. But it's actually sometimes harder to simplify than it is to choose a word like loquacious, right? And when you just want to say talkative or noisy or chatty, right? All of these words mean the same thing, but your choice of what that word is brings something to mind in the audience.
Yeah.
That is different. And back in 2015, when we launched Just Not Sorry, which helps people communicate confidently in email, It helps you be cognizant of your word choice, such as just or sorry or I think or I believe, etc., and how it undermines your message.
Yeah.
But that you should be making a conscious choice. If you're sending a note to someone who lost their dog recently, I'm so sorry for your loss. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm checking in with you. But there's an app I use that can pre-draft emails for you. And when they do their check-ins, often have the word just. And I wrote the customer service group an email and I said, please stop, figure out the programming here so that isn't the first word, and just say I'm.
Yeah.
Checking in. I wanted to know. I'm looking to see what your response was. And it minimizes. And there are so many other things like that. I can't tell you how it's nails on a chalkboard to me when someone says I kind of or sort of do something.
Oh no, because you do or you don't.
You do or you don't.
Yeah.
Right? We were kind of working on this marketing initiative that was supposed to transform our company. Oh, you were kind of.
Yeah. Maybe if you'd done it, we've got to gone better. It's so true. We look into we do often pull ourselves back, don't we? And we hold ourselves. We have an idea and we think it's the right idea, but just in case it isn't the right idea to somebody else, we start to apologize for it in its delivery. And make it smaller. It's like, wait, this probably isn't the right answer, but okay, well, if it's probably not the right answer, don't tell it me.
I'm not sure it's right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, your role in the business world and in other places is to earn people's trust and confidence. When we use words like that, we're saying, I'm not confident in it, so why should you be?
I have no idea if it's any good whatsoever. So I'm just going to put it out there and you can decide.
The fact that I researched it for 27 hours and I have a PhD in it, not important. I'm still not sure of myself.
That so resonates because I see it. Yeah, I see it all the time. I hear it in myself sometimes. I go back to emails before I send them, and I'm like, take those bits out because that. Yeah, just no. Just
download justnotsorry.com, totally free. It'll help. It brings cognizance. It's spell check. Grammarly actually does this now too. So
it's finding those bits, isn't it? To go actually. I think it was Bob Proctor that said, once you realize that just because I'm right doesn't make you wrong, and just because you're right doesn't make me wrong, the world becomes a much easier place. And because now all it comes at is a position of learning. And because I can learn what it is that makes you right, whilst you can learn what it is that makes me right. And therefore we've both learned something that we can take it out into the wider world. And I guess, it's in that, to your point, you made it so beautifully earlier, but it's in that using your influence instead of using a position of power. Because I look at my little girl's 8, and you could say she doesn't have a position of power per se, because she's right, but she has a huge position of influence, and has done from being very little, because nobody wants the baby to be crying. Because we all know they then own the space, because everyone's there trying to make it stop. So their influence is significantly greater than their authority. In the general terms of which one of us could actually do something. So how do you help people to master that skill of moving from authority to influence? Because it doesn't mean say you lose the authority, but actually you no longer need to lean into it because your influence will get you there.
I think the first thing that I do is I have people remember when they weren't in a position of authority, did they like it when someone was in a command and control style? Did that help them do their work better? Did that help them bring their best selves? And most people, the answer is no. And so why would you want to emulate that as a style? Like when you think back to your best bosses and managers, is that what they were doing? Probably not. They were having a conversation with you. They were asking questions so that they could learn more about your perspective. They saw that if they hired you, it was for your brain and for your skill set and for your experience, which was different than theirs.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can say, yeah, my job is to be a leader, and leader means I have to make some of the tough calls. But as a leader, my job is to have people follow me. What's it going to take to make that happen? And my job is to help everyone around me do their best work. Because when everyone around me does their best work, we win.
Yeah.
And so what is it that I need to do now that I'm in this state of authority that will empower that to happen? Right? What do I need? And that's what the leadership framework is all about. There's 8 different verbs. I'm not going to get into all of them, but it's all about how do you get the most out of the people who work with you? Whether they report into you or to somebody else, or they're your colleague or your superior, how do you recognize, as we mentioned earlier, they're people? And everything we do impacts the way they do what they do. And so how can we recognize that we're all on this earth together? We're all in it together. Everything is a group project. Everything is a group project. And so once you have that, I then give people tools. Once it's a mindset shift, right? Then I give people tools. Okay, now that you're in this mindset that you need to influence, how do you do it? And so I have a map. And I say, map your influence. Ooh, and I will do that again. I have a map. And I say, map your influence. And map, MAP, stands for 3 words. First, you manifest. And what you're manifesting is where you want to go. You answer the question deeply. What does the future look like when I've been successful? What is this future place that I want the world to look like, our customers to have, the tools to be available, the people who are there? Then A is for assess. Assess where someone else wants to go. Better understand your partners, your customers, your coworkers, and say, okay, they have goals too. They have desires too. They have quotas they need to reach. What are they? What drives them? And then when it's time, because you want to influence them, you promote where you can go together. So rather than saying, here's my idea, here's my idea, here's my idea, you say, I understand you as an individual also have desires, goals, etc. And I want you to see that if we collaborate, we can both be successful. We can both be successful. And that each of the pitches you have to give to the individuals is different.
Yeah.
Because every person defines success differently. And so once you recognize that, again, we're dealing with humans, and you have to assess each of those individuals in the groups, it is only then that you are prepared with your map, how you're going to promote your idea of the future, this thing you want to manifest, to these individuals in different ways so that they see themselves as beneficiaries.
Yeah. I love that. I used to do this thing in preparation for years. Before any meeting, of going, okay, why might this person say no to me? Because that was the first thing that would always come into my head. So it's like, let's address that one first. And then what are they working on that's really important to them right now? And how is what I'm suggesting going to help them to achieve that? Because if I can get through those parts, I've got rid of my objection. I'm now in their shoes. And then I'm looking at the map process I love, because it kind of gives you a structure.
But you, so A, I want to know who you learned that from, but B, how many other people did you teach it to, right?
Yeah.
And beyond that, like, you saw it be successful so that you did it again and again and again, and it became part of the way you grew as a leader. Yeah. But part of that is recognizing that these other people, I don't have authority over them. Yeah. They can say no. They have agency. And even if I do have authority over them, they have agency to choose how hard they work on it, or how fast they work on it, or how excited they are working on it. And those things are worth their weight in gold.
That is so true. And it's funny, I'm trying to think back to who did I learn it from. And I think I learned it from, I was very lucky, I learned it from an early boss. And it became probably the number one thing I taught everybody that I ever led, and also everybody in every mentorship program and that I ever did across the banks. Was like, once you master this,
Yeah, the world becomes easier once you master influence.
Once you get to that level and you realize that what the CFO's biggest concern is very different to what the compliance officer's biggest concern is, which is very different to the chief people officer's concern is, you've got to do the hard work for them. You've got to be able to bring your presentation to life that addresses their greatest fear, so that they're bought in from their angle going, oh, well, actually, it's cost effective, but it's people focused and it's compliant. We're in. Instead of not doing that and expecting them to get there for you. It's like, it's your job to do the hard work. And I think it was Albert Einstein that said, if you can't explain it to me as if I was 6, you don't know it well enough. And I use that quote often in that piece that says sometimes we're so busy with overly complex explanations that the people we're communicating to don't understand us, in which case we've not communicated very well because they've got no idea what we're talking about.
But what you say takes humility to say, I didn't do it right. Yeah. So often when someone else doesn't understand or doesn't follow the instructions we gave them, we get mad at them and we say, you didn't understand me, you didn't listen. But what if it was me? Yeah. What if I didn't communicate it well enough? What if I didn't make it as clear as it needed to be? And where can I improve my communication style, skills, etc., that'll enable you, other human, to be able to do something? And a lot of what we're talking about, from my perspective, is foundational influence that a lot of people don't get right. But I started teaching people about, like, let's call it 201 influence, where it's electoral politics, and the idea that sometimes it's not you who gives the message, right? Yeah. Or that you don't need to convince all the people, you just need to convince enough of the people to gain momentum, etc. But I couldn't teach people that secondary master's level influence or executive level influence if they didn't have a strong foundation. And so many people were lacking the most basic foundations because they were exposed to managers who commanded, controlled.
Yeah.
And they thought that's what you were supposed to do. And as organizations become more matrixed and more complex and more icky and gooey, you need these skills. Well, because it's not all in a hierarchy anymore.
No, and they, like you say, they are the foundation. If the foundation isn't there, nothing else you build is safe. And I'm always very grateful that I believe I got my greatest leadership lesson from my very first role, which was as a hairdresser. And that was because as a hairdresser, they taught you to listen to what the other person wants to achieve, to help them to achieve it, and to have them leave you feeling the very best version of themselves. Well, that's leadership. If you listen to understand what the other person wants, you help them to achieve it, and you have them leave you feeling increase, then they're going to want to come back for more. They're going to want to continue to work with you. Whether that's client, whether that's colleague, whether that's business partner, whether it's regulator, anybody, because you're coming at it from that space. And I think, there's some of the things that I've often seen, to your point, that element where instead of looking inward at what was it I could have done differently, they look outward into why didn't you do what I expected of you?
Exactly.
Actually, the lesson we have to go in is to do the inward bit first, isn't it? What part did I play in the misunderstanding? What part
could I have done better?
Yeah, better.
It's interesting you talk about your first job as a hairdresser. I often talk about my first job as an event planner, fundraiser, and how that impacted my understanding of systematic thinking. Because first of all, with an event, it's got a very clear product launch date, right? Like, people are coming, there better be food on the plates, right? But you can't do it alone. There's somebody who's doing check-in, there's the photographer, and different people with different skill sets, right? I can't do everything on my own. And I can't be micromanaging everyone else at the same point either, because I can't be everywhere. Yeah. And thus, I have to provide instructions to these other people in a way that they understand what my goals are, that when they're on the playing field, they can make choices without coming back to me,
Yeah.
I can't be answering all of the questions in the middle of the event, right? That they have to use their best judgment, and I have to trust them to do that.
Yeah.
And that, like, if you think about it, there's levels of people and there's different experiences, and then there's your guests. At the end, there's this group of people who paid money to come to an event, and they need to have a certain feeling when they leave. Whether, in my case, when that was fundraising, that they felt like they contributed to a good cause, or anything else, fun, etc. And that experiential stuff also comes in. And I'm grateful that that was my first job, in a similar way that you're grateful for your hairdresser.
Yeah, I love that, because it teaches you real time, because you have no other choice, do you? I can't believe where the time goes. I mean, how did we get to the end of the show? I've still got about a zillion questions to ask you, but I'm very conscious before we do go. Can you share with the audience how they can get in touch with you and who you help?
So in general, you can find me, Tami Reiss, anywhere on the internet, TamiReiss.com, and then, or Tami Reiss on LinkedIn, Instagram, like you name it, it's there. If you find the WNBA coach with 2 M's, it's not me. She has blonde curly hair instead of brunette. And the people who I help tend to be corporations. I used to do individual coaching, but I'm trying to, quote unquote, scale myself. So I have a GPT that helps people be confident in their communication. There's Just Not Sorry that's out there. I have an executive presence online course people can take, because I want there to be lower cost options to access all that is in my brain and my experience. And then corporations and associations and groups bring me in, either as a workshop or as a speaker, to talk about influence, talk about these foundational things or the more advanced influence topics, because they are what will enable us to be successful. And so if you realize that AI is only going to take you so far, you might as well call me.
I love that. And for anybody who didn't get to scribble that down as Tami was talking, please just check the notes below, because all the ways to connect with Tami are right there for you, and I encourage you to do so. Tami, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight, your expertise, and your influence.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope that your community of listeners really learned something today.
Thank you so much. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today's episode as insightful and inspiring as I did. And until next time, take care.